What up, family? Hope everyone's having a blessed day, man. Uh, Enjoying your Friday evening. This is another installment of the HBCU Fanatics. The show's running along each other, Coach. But this this is another installment of the HBCU Fanatics, man. Of course, I have my co-host, Mr. Southern himself, Coach 67 Sports TV. What's going on, man?
Man, I'm blessed and highly favored. You know the Fanatics, we back in the build down your dig. Enough, we finna give y'all an hour of power. Let's get it, let's get it. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir, man. A lot of change pivots going on, man.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah. A lot going on, you know what I'm saying?
Shout out to brother Jay Good, man, giving us this information, and he's part of the show as well. But the brother shaking and moving, and he always supporting in the background. So we appreciate that, brother, LDBC brother. Um, yeah, man. It's if those who don't know, former head coach of Prairie View A&M and Southern, Eric Dooley, is now offensive coordinator for Division Two HBCU Edward Waters. Um, it's so now he went from the SWAC to the SIAC division, which is a very competitive division. Even though it's Division Two, the little brothers of the HBCU family, they still competitive. Um, Coach, what's your 411 on this?
Well, I mean, basically, Eric Dooley is now at Edward Waters. And in addition to that, former Southern University starting quarterback Noah Bodden, he's at Edward Waters also.
Yeah, I
So
saw his posting on Instagram in his Edward Waters uniform. So congrats to him, man. I hope he
yeah,
does his thing.
and I'm not online, I think it's a good look for the both of them. Hopefully, Noah Biden could go to Edward Waters and he could do his thing. And, Coach Dooley could kind of get his footing back under him. As long as it's a good, nice place far away from Baton Rouge, I wish much luck and much success to the both of them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, as long as they stay their ass away from Southern, huh?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean,
Well,
because I'm gonna keep it a buck. Even you know Grambling fans. Last year, they thought about, when he had Martez Carter and Devontae Kincaid, and he was the OC. I think a lot of people thought he could bring that magic back, and it just wasn't in the cards. And I'm thinking to myself, y'all reaching way back when he had a dynamic quarterback and a dynamic running back, and y'all thought he was going to be able to replicate that magic, but he didn't
right.
have that same type of personnel. So I think those expectations from Grambling fans in terms of him being able to do what he did back then, I think they were unrealistic because you didn't have that type of personnel. You have a quarterback that's as dynamic as Devontae Kincaid and a running back that's dynamic as Martez Carter, and you have those guys as a combination. I
Hmm.
think it could kind of give you a false sense of what he actually did as an OC. Devontae Kincaid made a lot of plays, even though he wasn't like an actual runner. He wasn't,
He was an
the coach.
athlete that could move if he had to. Yeah.
Yeah, and he extended a lot of plays, and he made a lot of plays with his legs that allowed him to make plays with his arm. And in addition to that, I think Martez Carter is a running back. I think he was able to, the two of them at quarterback and running back, it had a lot of deficiencies that Grambling offensive line had, in my personal opinion. Is a of course I didn't play on a college level, but is a middle school offensive line coach and offensive coordinator. I felt like, I remember one play in the classic that Kincaid and Carter was out. And I'm not gonna lie, you could basically, when the two of them was out and when they came back in, you could see the difference in that Grambling offensive line. So I think those two players hit the deficiencies of Grambling's offensive line, and not only that, I think they made Eric Dooley look better as an offensive coordinator than he once was. So the talent he had when he was at Southern and Grambling, I think, them last couple of years at Southern and Grambling, I think he got exposed, you know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And shout out to the brothers in the chat, man. You got Anthony Bolton, Memphis, man. He said salute. Adrian Cook said, "What's good, people? What's good, brother?" He said, "F 'em." uh, hopefully Dooley coaching
JSU.
wideouts.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm
Adrian,
not gonna lie. Them last couple years in the SWAC exposed him,
yeah,
And
and
I
Adrian.
mean, and another thing too to point out,
Hmm.
he replaced Dawson Odoms at Southern, but people don't realize he ain't never beat Odoms when Odoms was at Southern. You know what I'm saying? So
Never.
I didn't like the way Southern brought Dooley in from PV to Southern. I felt like it was, it was the trash way they did it. And I think they was looking at the fact that he went to the SWAC championship game against GSU. But I mean, GSU, they pretty much handled them that year in the SWAC championship game anyway. So I didn't like the way Southern brought him in. But I think at the end of the day, he's at Edward Waters. I hope both him and Noah Bodden is successful. And, they do their thing. I wish them well, both of them.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, man. Adrian Crook said, they all look like they missed meals at Grambling. Now, yeah, they been looking small in them, especially in them trenches lately. You ain't lying.
Yeah.
Um, my brother, man, virtual football cast was happening, bro. Let me tell y'all something, man. I know we on HBCU, but all my gamers, man, all my folks who want to know what's going on in the gaming world. This brother been doing it since day one, man. And I ain't gonna lie, a lot of, just be honest, a lot of Caucasian white gaming channels took a lot of content from this brother right here. Um, and he had to start off his channel, but when his channel was pumping, a lot of you see these content creators when it comes to gaming and everything, he was doing it first. He was one of the ones doing it first, and so yeah, brother, I appreciate you for support, man. Good brother here, man. VF Cast. Adrian Crook said, donate some chicken to Grant. Oh, you know it, man. You know it. Real, man. I've been paying attention. All these channels popping up, talking about the comparing the PS2 days versus the now and everything. You was doing that shit first. Excuse my language, but just how I feel. You was doing that first. So I pray you get yours, man, because you was one of the pioneers. But
Yeah, man.
anyway,
Major shout out to him, you know what I'm saying?
yes, sir. Yes, sir. Um, but switching back to football, man. Um, Speaking of the SIAC, man, Coach Dooley, he ain't out of the woods, man, because um he has his work cut out for him. 'Cause Edward Waters was trash for a couple of years, man. They moved up to the SIAC, and their head coach, Tariano Morgan, resigned. So now they have an intern coach, which I'm his name escapes me. But their conference includes Albany State, Allen, Benedict, Clark Atlanta, of course Edward Waters, Fort Valley State, Kentucky State, Central State. I remember they upset, unfortunately, um, the bad luck Delta Devils one year. Lane College, Miles, Morehouse, Savannah State, and Tuskegee are in their divisions.
Yeah, I mean, it's not gonna be easy sledding. And people don't realize a lot of your coaches, not all of them, but some of your coaches that's like in the SWAC and MEAC, they got they start on a Division II level, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So people, assuming like, oh yeah, hey, it's a step down. Like, nah, you can't sleep on them SIAC schools and them Division II HBCUs, you know what I'm saying? Because a lot of your coaches in the SWAC and MEAC, that's where they got their start. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I know. I know it because one year for the Turkey Bowl, it wasn't because last year they Tuskegee was competitive with Alabama State, but Alabama State put their foot on their neck in the second half. But it was 1 or 2 years ago. Tuskegee almost upset Alabama State. One of the brothers in the chat, y'all, if y'all know what I'm talking about, which year Tuskegee almost got Alabama State. So I say all that to say this: those Division II HBCUs can't sleep on them. You gotta as far as the schools like the MEAC and the SWAC, when they play them, they gotta treat them like the little brother of the HBCU family. If they don't, you might get upset.
Yeah, big facts, big facts.
Yes, sir. But last year in the CIAC, just a fun fact if you don't know, Miles beat Clark Atlanta 53-25 to become the SIAC champs last year. So Miles is looking to get back to the SIAC championship. For the CIAA schools, we have, of course, you have your Fayetteville State. You have your Bluefield State. They've been a new addition for a couple of years. Bowie State, Elizabeth City State, Fayetteville State. I just said that. Johnson C. Smith, Lincoln in Pennsylvania, Livingstone, Shaw, Virginia State, Virginia Union, and Winston-Salem State. Now, this is another conference, coach, that can be up and down, because I remember for a couple of years, Fayetteville State was dominant. Or Virginia State or Virginia Union, or even Winston-Salem State. Last year, Virginia Union beat their longtime rivals, Virginia State, for the CIAA championship 17-13. It was a damn good game.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. So yeah, if y'all see them games, man, if there's no SWAC games going on, man, watch them. Or MEAC, watch them. It's good football, man. Definitely good, decent football over there.
And not only that, you got to realize in some instances, if a SWAC or MEAC school like one player team like week 1 to get an early dub, and they might want to play one of these teams for homecoming. In some instances, SWAC or MEAC schools, they play these schools. I've seen Southern play against, Lincoln, Allen, Miles College, schools like that for like the Pete Richardson Classic, for homecoming. So yeah, I'm definitely aware of a lot of these schools, in terms of playing against SWAC or MEAC schools, and in some instances, hey, every blue moon, some of these schools are pull an upset, on a lower tier SWAC or MEAC school. So yeah, I'm definitely aware, and like I said, of course, Southern has played, some of these schools for homecoming or for like maybe like a Pete Richardson Classic type game. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir. Yeah. So if you mess around, put one of these teams for homecoming or whatever, be careful. Make sure you do your homework.
Yeah, and I mean that's the thing about it. It's of course we this show originated from our LDBC Lions Den Boston community. Shout out to 7-8 and shout out to the family. And
yes,
people,
sir.
They wonder how really the Southern Baller Show and the Southern Baller Show collective, yourself, me, your twin JB, our brother Brent Fox, Jay Good, the 5 of us, and then of course, our brother Big Joe Townsend, staying on LDBC business, Mr. Old Hillside. He
yes,
played
sir.
D1 football. Jay Good played D1 football at Southern. So, that kind of makes up the Southern Baller Show collective. And in addition to that, like us talking at the meet and greet in 2022, that was the genesis of both the Southern Baller Show and HBCU Fanatics. And of course, JB has also been on HBCU Fanatics. He gradually learning about the HBCU football landscape the way you and I
Right.
know about it. And of course, Jay Good is like you said, he a behind the scenes member. So, these some of the like barbershop type conversations, you and I, Jay Good and I, or the three of us has had behind the scenes, you know what I'm saying? So, this definitely good locker room talk, good barbershop conversations, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And Adrian Cook said PV coach won 2 games year one at Division II level. Look at him now.
Yeah, and that's the thing about it. I'm glad Adrian Cook brought that up. That's one thing we're going to talk about in terms of Tremaine Jackson and PV, PV expectations. You know what I'm saying? We're going to talk about that a little bit later on in the show. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I heard switching back to the SWAC. I heard there was a Southern scrimmage going on tonight. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, they had one. They definitely had one last Saturday night. I was supposed to go. Jay Good asked me if I was going. A coworker asked me if I was going. A former coworker asked me if I was going. But of course, I didn't go to the one last Saturday, and I know they got one coming up. I think tonight, tomorrow night, one of the two. But of course, the one from last Saturday, of course, fans and family and media was only allowed to be there the first half. So Southern University fans and the media, it was only allowed for the first half. The second half was closed. Like Joseph Davis said, if you ever hear a Southern University fan say the street committee, that's what Coach Pete Richardson, shout out to the dean of the SWAC, Coach Pete Richardson. A lot of times when Southern University fans used to give him pushback, he used to call, the diehard Southern University fans like myself, the street committee. So Joseph Davis said the street committee was able to catch the second half of the scrimmage, you know what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
basically, McCoy started. So, I think that's kind of they're still trying to push this narrative that is a tight quarterback race. I think that's a lot of gamesmanship by Coach Graves and Coach Frederick to kind of have North Carolina Central, like I said, hey, we're gonna prepare for this pure pocket passing Jalen Woods and prepare for this athletic dual threat type quarterback and Cam McCoy. So I think that's some gamesmanship. And of course, Trey Holly and Mike Franklin look good, from what
Okay.
I heard.
Okay.
In addition to that, the defense played well at times, but the defense was up and down, and the offense got the better of the defense. But overall, from what I understood, it was a good scrimmage, and they looking good. But everybody has hope. No disrespect, but unless you a team like a Valley UAPB, like everybody has hope this time of year. And I just kind of been just keeping my ear to the ground, myself and my brother Jay Good. We just kind of been kind of looking in at some camp type stuff just around the SWAC and just kind of looking at some of the expectations from different teams. Like I said, we're gonna talk about a handful of teams like a little bit later on in the show, but from a Southern University standpoint, they look good at this scrimmage last week on both sides of the ball. Some fans, like Jackson State fans, FAMU fans, just fans from around the SWAC, they think Southern University fan base like has unrealistic expectations of of the team and what they're gonna actually do. And Southern has a tough schedule. They start out week 0 against North Carolina Central. They
Yeah,
play
that's
Jackson State early. They play Bama State. They go on the road to play Fresno State. A lot of people feel that Southern gonna start off the season like 1-5, 1-6 because the schedule is too difficult early. Whereas, diehard Southern University fans like myself, I think Coach Graves has done a good enough job bringing in players that instead of them being 1-5, I think they're gonna be 5-1, to start out the season. So some people feel like Southern fans have unrealistic expectations, and Southern University fans, Jaguar Nation, we believe our expectations are where they're supposed to be. Southern, historically is a blue blood, along with Grambling, along with Jackson State, along with FAMU and that blue bloods tier we talked about last week. And we think expectations are such. So if you're gonna be a head coach at Southern, like you have to recruit well, you have to coach well, and you gotta understand we expect to win. And that's what it's gonna be. If you don't get the job done, and I hate to say it, as a fan base, we have a quick trigger and we ready to find the next guy if we don't get the job done. So I think Coach Graves has done an excellent job thus far, but he can't get laxed. They have to keep their foot on the gas. It has to be all gas, no brakes. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, and we gonna stay in Louisiana, Coach. Since the departure of Coach Eric Dooley from the offensive coordinator role to Edward Waters, how you think Grambling is going to replace him? And then I'm hearing rumors that they're pretty confident. So how do you? Because you definitely got your ear to the ground in those Louisiana streets as far as HBCU ball for both Southern and Grambling. So what you think?
Well, of course, like the school I worked at, in Baton Rouge at the time, it had a few Grambling fans, and you got to realize, from one of them, the people I talk to, I think the expectations are split. I think is a bad sign from one standpoint where a certain portion of the fan base, they don't have like the high expectations of year past when Grambling was at the top of their game and Coach Eddie Robinson was in his prime and he was mentally sharp, before he got older. So some of those fans don't have the expectations of yesteryear. Whereas on the flip side, especially fans that like co-workers of mine that live here in South Louisiana that went to Grambling and that are diehard Grambling fans that even go up to North Louisiana or watch games and whatnot and go up there for homecoming or whatever. Like they have like high expectations the way Jackson State fans have, the way FAMU fans have, the way Southern University fans have, and they expect to win. And I think they expect for Coach Mickey Joseph to, win at least 8 games. And I'm not gonna lie, if he doesn't win at least 8 games and win the Bayou Classic, more than likely they probably gonna part ways with him. So, the person that's a current co-worker of mine, she said like Mickey Joseph is sitting on an extremely hot seat. I'm not just talking about a normal hot seat. I'm talking about a raging inferno. So he has to win 8 games and he has to win the Bayou Classic. And you got to realize, a lot of Southern University detractors, they felt like Southern won a lot of close games, with teams like Alabama A&M, Prairie View, Alabama A&M, Texas Southern. And Grambling was the same way, except they was on the losing side. They lost a lot of close games last year. So I think a lot of, some of Grambling fans that's encouraged, they felt like, hey, we lost a lot of close games, but we feel this year we can win some of those close games that we lost. And not only that, but they beat Jackson State, even though, from a statistic standpoint, Jackson State dominated the game. But on the flip side, Jackson State turned the ball over 5 times. And as a coach, we have this I'm not a real big analytics guy, but there's this handbook that former Ravens head coach Brian Billick, when he was the OC for the Vikings, they had certain things like if you have a certain amount of explosive plays, like plays of 15 to 20 yards or more, if you have a certain amount of them, you win like a certain percentage of the time. If you win a if you win a turnover battle by +2 or more, you win like 80% of the time. If you get a pick 6, you win like 80% of the time. If you have a kickoff or a punt return for a touchdown, you win like 80% of the time. So in that particular instance, even though Jackson State dominated the game in terms of yardage, they turned the ball over 5 times. So, and it still was a tight game, but Grambling won. So the fact that Grambling beat Jackson State and the fact that Grambling lost a lot of close games last year, I think a certain percentage of Grambling's fan base, they expect to be able to get over the hump and win those games this year. So I think the fan base is split. a certain portion of them feel like, hey, you need to beat Southern and win a Bayou Classic, and you need to win 8 games to keep your job. The other portion of the fan base really don't have high expectations. And then I'm not gonna lie, like there was also like coworkers of mine, a couple of them, they was like, man, why is Grambling hiring all these Southern rejects? Mickey Joseph was the front runner to be Southern's head coach before they decided to go to Coach Graves. Well, I think Grambling hired him first, but he was the front runner. And of course, Eric Dooley was the former Southern head coach that, Southern probably just finished paying him all not too long ago off of that contract. And not only that, Jason Rollins was the defensive coordinator, interim head coach at Southern. So they didn't like the fact that Grambling hired a lot of Southern University rejects in their mind anyway. But they definitely have high expectations. As you saw, Coach Hugh Jackson, he only got 2 seasons. So I'm not gonna lie, we know that Mickey Joseph, he from the city, from New Orleans. He played ball in Nebraska. He was the interim head coach in Nebraska. He done coached around the SWAC. He coached at Nicholls State. So, he has his real pedigree was, of course, he was an outstanding recruiter. He was a recruiting coordinator at one point at LSU. So the fan base has a lot of expectations, but of course, major shout out to the brother Doc Holliday, HBCU Overdrive. When I was on the show, he and I talked about it. The fact that, you got people like Doug Williams and other like big time boosters and big time people behind the scenes kind of trying to tell him, if he the chef, he in the kitchen cooking, let him do his thing instead of trying to look over his shoulder and trying to, coach a drive from the side seat. Let him do his thing. But I think, I'm not gonna lie, he has very high expectations. I think realistically, 6-5, 7-5, 6-6, 7-5, that'll cost him his job. So if he don't get at least 8 wins and a Bayou Classic win, they might part ways with him.
Okay, you know what, and I'm definitely keeping my eye on Grambling, see if they especially see how the transfer from Southern T-Set do. Because from what I'm hearing, I could be wrong. He might get a chance to start, but we'll see.
Well, Southern and Grambling has you have a history of, quarterbacks like Lionel Hayes. Because I'm not gonna lie, Lionel Hayes and Sam George, they both were better than Marcus Jacoby. I don't care what nobody say. Myself and C. Wells is SWAC Talk. Major shout out to C. Wells also. He and I have this like behind the scenes conversation in terms of like who was some of the worst Southern quarterbacks. I think Marcus Jacoby probably was the worst for me. I think he had more help than a lot of people realize. He had a savage offensive line, a good running game with Steve Warford, and a good defense. Whereas C. Wells feel like lately, like Noah Bodden and Harold Blood, like Jacoby wasn't great, but he was serviceable. Whereas those two were like just the worst. So I think it's kind of a matter of perspective. But I think at the end of the day, I think the Grambling fan base is split, and it's going to be interesting to see how things play out this season.
Definitely interesting, man. And shout out to my brother Big Reg, host of Big Boy Talk, man. Good content over there. Please support this brother. And Jay Barr, he said, "What's up, family in chat? Appreciate you always supporting. Appreciate you." All right, man. And yeah, man, it's definitely going. I mean, are you excited, man? Football's almost just 2 weeks away.
No, actually, a week from tomorrow.
A week for tomorrow.
Because what week 0 is the 23rd, and I think today is the 15th.
You're right.
So
You're
yeah,
right.
we a week away. So yeah, we getting ready to, get ready to get this thing kicked off with it is officially called the MEAC SWAC Challenge, but I feel like the SWAC should be in the front. So I always say the SWAC MEAC Challenge with Southern and North Carolina Central. You know what I'm saying?
I hear you, man, and I hope y'all do y'all thing. My eyes gonna be glued to the TV that day.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely gonna be checking out ABC. Of course, ordinarily, if the money wasn't a little funny, the change wasn't a little strange. I'll be in Atlanta in the building. But hopefully if the law is the same, I'll be finishing up the season in Atlanta with the Jags, and I'll be live in living color. You know what I'm saying? If the law say the same.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay, real fast, Coach. What is your HBC 2025 HBCU Preseason Top 10 football rankings looking like?
Well, I'm gonna keep it a buck. You got a few different rankings out there. Me is a hardcore, diehard member of Jaguar Nation. I don't care what the preseason rankings look like. I just care what they look like at the end of the season. And as long as Southern is in Atlanta holding that Celebration Bowl trophy up, Black National Championship at the end of the season, that's the only thing I'm really concerned about. But of course, in terms of like the HBCU top 10 preseason rankings, you got different, different rankings. But of course, you got to give the devil they do. Jackson State
Yes, sir.
is definitely consensus number one. Most people believe they deserve to be number one. And I think this is pretty much, it's kind of like a combination of a couple preseason rankings, but I'm just kind of giving you like the general consensus. Jackson State 1, North Carolina Central 2, South Carolina State 3, Southern 4, FAMU 5, Morgan State 6, Alabama State 7, Hampton 8, Norfolk State 9, PV 10, and of course, there's been a, since Tremaine Jackson took over PV, there's kind of been a groundswell. Of course, PV versus everybody. Major shout out to their little channel over there. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
They're selling 2025 SWAC championship T-shirts and 2025 Black Prairie View Black National Championship shirts. And I'm like, look, man, we know Tremaine Jackson.
He's a hell of a coach.
Yeah, but I mean, this is first year in the SWAC. You just can't assume that y'all gonna leapfrog all these other coaches that are in the SWAC. Of course, you got a lot of inexperienced coaches in the SWAC in terms of from head coaching experience in the SWAC in particular. But I don't know why a lot of these PV fans, they're another one. They're another little fan base. Some of them, portion of them, they're real. They have, I think, in my opinion, I think they have extremely high. I mean, I think I ain't gonna say it's unrealistic because the SWAC West, in my opinion, is wide open. I still got Southern winning it. Of course, you got Alcorn fans that think Alcorn gonna win it, and you got PV fans thinking they're gonna win it. You got a portion of Grambling fans thinking they're gonna win it. But you got a lot of PV fans thinking that PV gonna win the SWAC West and win the SWAC. And I'm like, man, pump the brakes, man. And they talking about this wide receiver, Go Lighty. He's supposed to be like the replacement for Shamar Savage. They think he's supposed to be like Mike Hayes with speed. And I'm like, man, bro, Mike Hayes with speed is like a stretch, bro. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Bro, Mike Hayes is a legend at Southern and a legend in these SWAC streets. For you to say he's gonna be Mike Hayes with speed, it's like, come on, man, y'all gotta pump the brakes. And not only that, but if y'all couldn't get Shamar Savage the ball, I know Goliath is supposed to be what 6'3", 6'4", 6'5", 6'6", whatever he is. But hell, y'all gotta have a quarterback that can get in the ball. You know what I'm saying? But the preseason polls, in terms of the HBCU top 10, I think they're interesting, depending on which one you use or which one you look at. And not only that, but the preseason banter, the preseason rivalries, like going on social media through all these different social media platforms. Whether we talking about, especially Facebook, but SWAC Talk and Rough in the SWAC and all these different Facebook groups, SWAC and the Fool. Like these Facebook groups, they be going hard. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they do.
Especially, with Avis Heat, with Jackson State fan, Rough in the SWAC. They be going extra hard. And not only that, but on Instagram, X, which is formerly known as Twitter, they be going hard in these HBCU streets. And like the conversation has been, it's been very engaging. And in addition to being engaging, like some of these fans, like they have like high expectations for their respective SWAC school. So it's gonna be interesting to see how the season play out. Like you and I always talk about, like you don't win championships on paper, you win championships on the field.
Exactly.
So a lot of these fan bases, they having, they're talking greasy, especially based on some of these preseason rankings, just their expectations as a fan base. But at the end of the day, it's gonna be interesting to see what the HBCU preseason top 10 look like compared to what actually transpires on the field and what we see at the end of the season in terms of who's left standing, you know.
Yeah, yeah, and I say I agree with the list, but um, I would switch North Carolina Central and South Carolina State. I'll actually put South Carolina State second, since they made it to the Celebration Bowl last year. That's
Yeah,
just me.
and I think that's a fair point, but many people feel like, of course, they feel like in terms of like the Blue Bloods and the MEAC, it's definitely South Carolina State and North Carolina Central, or vice versa. But either way, they feel like those are like the cream of the crop in terms of the MEAC, and those are gonna be the top two teams that's gonna represent the MEAC in the Celebration Bowl, whichever one of them come out standing. And you never know. You could have a split MEAC championship, and one of those teams could kind of get the nod over the other based on head to head or whatever type of, whatever, metric they use to determine who going to go on to the Celebration Bowl. So it's going to be interesting to see. And of course, we get everything started, like I said, a week from tomorrow, week 0. And, some people feel like Southern might be biting off a little bit more than they could chew in terms of playing against North Carolina Central early in the season. But we'll see.
Yeah,
Trey
we
Oliver,
definitely will see.
Trey Oliver and Tennis Berry, they have high expectations for their respective teams. So we're gonna see how things work out. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, we definitely gonna see, man.
Yeah, big facts, big facts.
We we definitely gonna see, man. I ain't gonna lie. I'm excited for the excitement that's at Prairie View A&M under Tremaine Jackson. I always say a good coach brings good energy. Um, and he's one of those coaches, so that's why everybody in Panther Nation is excited. But of course, we gonna see. My only thing is just give the brother time. He's a good coach. He proved it at Valdosta State. Give him some time. Don't do like Valley, which I do understand Valley may be a steeper hill to climb, but um, it's just give the brother time. You guys have a good coach.
Well, and I think that's the thing about it. They were saying the same thing with Coach Graves in terms of the Jaguar Nation. Like basically on Rocky Miller's channel the other night, shout out to them, him and Coach Cole and their little crew, they had Perry White and BJ Jones on it. And basically they were saying like, some of these fan bases, they have like unrealistic expectations from their respective teams. The issue I had, they were saying like, this is Coach Graves on his second year at Southern as the head coach. Like, y'all got to give him time. Y'all having unrealistic expectations. But on the flip side, he going to say, oh, man, hey, Tremaine Gray, he been a head coach for a while. Like, he going to, hey, y'all better watch out, PV coming. And I'm like, hold up, bro, hold up. Like, come on, coach, you talking out both sides of your mouth now, you know what I'm saying? You
All
can't
right.
say on one hand that, hey, Coach Jackson, hey, PV coming, but on the other side of your mouth, you saying, hey, Jaguar Nation got unrealistic expectations when it come to, Coach Graves, like, hey, y'all need to pump y'all brakes, y'all got a tough schedule. And I'm like, brother, if we going by that, then guess what? Coach Graves actually made it to the SWAC championship last year. And Coach
True.
Jackson didn't even coach in the SWAC. So, like, I think, if we're going to be fair and balanced, I think we got to kind of be fair and balanced across the board. And I think that's one thing is on a middle school level, I always used to say like, exception for like your bottom feeder type teams on every level, for the exception of, like I said, I hate to, throw shade, but unless you like uh, uh, a Valley or a Pine Bluff type team on your respective level, whether we talk about the NFL or, HBCU level, high school, whatever, unless you like a bottom feeder type program, like everybody has hope this time of year and everybody has like a certain degree of expectations. So at the end of the day, like, it's just kind of interesting to see how a lot of these fan bases, they gassed up and they hyped up for the start of the season. And not only that, I think, depending on which fan base you point to, I think some of these fan bases might be a little bit unrealistic in terms of the expectations.
Oh, for a lot of the fan bases, that's why they fans gonna be unrealistic. But at the end of the day, everybody gotta the players got to put on their pads and helmets and see what the conclusion is gonna be. So we got to see how they do on the field, man. And it's drawing near. Just be patient. It's
Yeah.
drawing near. I also what I'm excited for to do to see how Coach Deshaun Jackson at Delaware and Coach Michael Vick does at
Norfolk.
Norfolk. So
Mhm.
it's gonna be it's gonna be interesting on the MEAC. And speaking of the MEAC,
Yeah, and the thing about it is, it seems like from a social media standpoint, like, there's kind of been some in terms of like, I guess, pub between like Vic and Jackson in terms of like, hyping up their respective teams, but of course, hyping up their head-to-head collision, like, during the season. So, it's kind of been interesting to see how, bringing in like that caliber of coach, how it can give your program a shot in the arm and give your fan base some life. I guess Norfolk State, they thought that, Dawson Otis was going to do the same thing when he was the head coach. But you got to realize, the resources he had at his disposal at Norfolk State and the resource he had at his disposal at Southern is different. Even though I know, they had APR problems, prior to him taking over at Southern, and he had to set up a preferred walk-on system. And in addition to that, they wasn't allowed to have spring practice. That's why, as a member of Jaguar Nation, I really, I felt like, the fan base kind of wrote Coach Odoms off, kind of quick. And, he had done a good job considering like some of your best players that he coached at Southern, you know, like, I mean, just think about it. Dre Joseph. He had Dre Joseph. He had Willie Quinn. He had Lenore Tillery. He had Mike Jones. He had all of them at the same time at Southern. I mean, he did a good job considering what he had to work with. But even with that
mm-hmm.
being said, like, I think he had more resources at his disposal at Southern than he did at Norfolk State, and he just couldn't live up to what he had done at Southern. But even with that being said, I think now that you bring in Mike Vick, I think the fan base, is even more excited. And of course, Delaware
Hey,
State,
Coach, and you cooking right now? I just wanted to even if he's not that successful this year, bro. Just his name alone or what he did and being from that area, not probably in that exact area, but being from Virginia and being a high school legend and everything, and doing damn near having a Hall of Fame career in the NFL. You know how many recruits from that area? I mean, big time recruits that can ball. He's gonna attract.
and that's the thing about it, bro. Like, you got to realize, like, even if Delaware State and Norfolk State don't like the world on fire this year,
Right.
just think about what those two respective programs gonna look like the next year or two. And not only that, but
If they give him time. Yeah.
yeah, well, that's the thing about it. You know, I think in Michael Vick and Deshaun Jackson respective situations, I don't think you're gonna have a short leash on Vick and Jackson compared to maybe like a Hugh Jackson at Grambling. You know what I'm saying? You're
Right.
gonna give those two brothers a little bit more grace because they have more cachet, they're more high profile. And in addition to that, I mean, some people are already saying like if they had the same kind of success that Deion Sanders had at Jackson State, like for both of them, this is gonna be a stepping stone to a Power 5 PWI job. Like, it's too early to say that, pump the brakes. But I see why they have that mindset because like Deion is kind of like the blueprint for this. He the blueprint for this particular like model in terms of like he was a template, in terms of that higher profile. I mean, don't get me wrong. You always had former NFL players to, be head coaches on a college level.
Mm-hmm.
But like we talked about, on your channel, like I don't think you ever had like Hall of Fame, like legendary NFL players high profile players to be the head coach at these schools. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Usually, if you look really, it's somebody like Pete Richardson. People don't realize Pete Richardson played in the NFL for the Buffalo Bills. You know what I'm saying? So somebody like him, yeah, but you would think somebody like Deion Sanders, Michael Vick, Deshaun Jackson, that they would be head coaches in college. You know what I'm saying? Especially, if you took care of your bread, your money right, you wouldn't think that, these guys are, in terms of like that high profile who want to be college coach. I mean, just kind of give you an example, right? We talked about this a couple months back.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about UI and Big Joe. When we talked about like who has a taller mountain to climb, we talked about Chris Dishman, we talked about Michael Vick, and we talked about Deshaun Jackson. We talked about Terrell Buckley at Valley. Just to think about it, bro. Jerry Rice played at Valley. I mean, to me, it seemed like he would be a better candidate to be the head coach at Valley than Terrell Buckley. But at the same token, if Jerry Rice bread looking right and he a celebrity, he high profile, maybe he feel like being a head coach. Maybe he not interested in coaching, period. And second of all, maybe he feel like hey, he don't want to go back to Valley. Like that's beneath him at this point. I'm not saying he don't do nothing for Valley behind the scenes, but I'm saying, these guys have to kind of be passionate about that for them to come back, come to these institutions and be like head coaches. So I think they're both of their respective fan bases. I think it's kind of giving them a shot in the arm. And even if they don't, win championships this year, I think in the future the sky's the limit for these respective programs.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree, man. Anything else that we missing, man? We forgot to
Well, we
discuss. I think
talked
we
about.
covered everything. I think we covered everything.
No, we really didn't. We talked about in terms
What
of.
we missing?
Well, I'm about to hit you now. We talked about Grambling and how they fan base is split. Like
Mm-hmm.
a certain portion of Graham fam, they really don't have the expectations of yesteryear, but you still got a certain percentage of them do, and they, feel like Mickey Joseph. It kind of goes to show you the difference between Southern and Grambling fans. Grambling fans want Mickey Joseph to win 8 games and win the Bayou Classic. Whereas Southern University fans,
Right.
we looking at the Celebration Bowl in Atlanta is the expectation. All right, we talked about PV fans. They excited, but Tremaine Jackson coming through, and basically they feel like Prairie View not only gonna win the SWAC West, they're gonna win the SWAC championship, and they're gonna win the Celebration Bowl. And I'm like, even if you say SWAC championship, I'm like, all right, cool, but Celebration Bowl, I don't know, but that. All right, but we also missed out on the fact that Andrew Body, he's healthy, and I think Bama State fans, I think they're encouraged.
Mm.
You got
And
head
we
coach,
covered that, but we can bring that up
yeah,
again.
yeah, Eddie Robinson Jr. Yeah, you're right. We did
In the
cover it too.
last show, yeah.
Yeah. But Andrew Body's healthy. And I think, well, we did cover it just in general on last show, but I'm saying from the standpoint of, I'm not saying they had the same type of expectations as like FAMU, as Jackson State, as Southern, as Purview. However, you got a seasoned coach with Eddie Robinson Jr., you know, Alabama State, they're synonymous for having a good defense. And I think their fans. I'm not saying they have those like astronomical expectations, but you got to realize, a lot of people in these SWAC streets, they feel like the SWAC East is substantially stronger than the SWAC West, and they
Mm-hmm.
feel like, if they could do their thing in terms of handling business on the east side of things, they could easily represent the SWAC East in the SWAC championship game. So I think Eddie Robinson Jr. and Andrew Body, I think that's part of the reason why that Bama State fan base that they really, they encourage in terms of what they could potentially do in terms of this season. What you think the ceiling is for Alabama State in terms of their particular team.
Well, they always gonna have a strong defense. They always gonna try to have that defense bolstered, if not decent. Um, But if Andrew body is healthy and they give him some weapons and offensive line is decent, they can definitely make some waves. But we're gonna have to see.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna lie, you right from the standpoint. I think that's the biggest question mark in terms of Alabama State. Can Andrew Body stay healthy? Because I think that's kind of been the issue with them is, the defense gonna do what the defense gonna do, but offense is And I mean that's the thing about it. Even if they had like a dominant run game, because a lot of teams over the years in the SWAC, whether we talk about Alabama State, Alabama A&M, Southern, Jackson State, whoever, if you could dominate, be dominant defensively, and you can have like a dominant running game, like that's a recipe for success.
That's
And
true.
not to mention on top of that, if you have a elite level quarterback like maybe like a Devontae Kincaid or Eric Randall, a Quincy Richard, a Bruce Eugene, a Tavares Jackson, or Randy Himes, or Robert Superman Kent, or whoever, if you have like a Don DC Carey, if you have a great defense, a dominant run game, and an elite level quarterback, and definitely a veteran experienced coach, like maybe like a Willie Simmons, or you got like a quarterback like Jeremy Musa. I felt like when it came to FAMU, I think that was the difference between FAMU and everybody else. The fact that they had Willie Simmons, a couple years ago
Hmm.
as their head coach, and they had Willie Simmons, and they had Jeremy Musa as their quarterback. You know what I'm saying? So having an elite level quarterback and an experienced veteran coach and a dominant defense and a good running game, like that could put you over the top in the SWAC easily. You know what I'm saying? Especially if you got a dominant run game and a dominant defense. That's a recipe for success in the SWAC.
Yeah, it definitely is, man. Look at FAMU a couple of years, year before last, and look at Jackson State last year. So
Yeah.
you ain't lying.
And,
You
and
was
that's the
not
thing
lying.
about it. Of course, you got varying opinions on Jacoby and Morgan, but that's the thing about it. I mean, he wasn't even. I'm not gonna say he was great. I'll say he was serviceable. You know what I'm
He
saying?
that and that's what I said last show. If
Competent
Jacoby
quarterback.
and Morgan is just competent and just make the right plays, man. He don't have to be Mr. Amazing and pass it through. Just give the ball, pass the ball off to those talented backs they got back there. Make the right throws. You know, because the running game is gonna open the passing lanes up. They gonna be straight. Just being
Yeah,
real.
and we could use Alabama State to kind of monkey wrench to Jackson State. Realistically, that's the blueprint for Jackson State. Jackson State is dominant defensively. Their offensive line is just ginormous. You know what I'm saying? They got a big, physical, nasty offensive line. They are dominant defensively. I always talk about the Southern. It's been a long time since Southern has had a Willie Quinn, or Ezra Landry, a Fred Bill, at Kenyatta Sparks. It's a punt kick returner. They got Travis Terrell Jr. You know what I'm saying? So, like, Jackson State, they did well in all three phases of the game in terms of being dominant defensively, had a dominant run game, and from a special team standpoint, they played well. So they played complementary football in all three phases of the game. And I think when you got a dominant defense, a dominant run game, and you good special teams too, like being good in all three phases of the game, that's why they was able to play during the course of the season, play Jacoby and Morgan and Cam McCoy and Zod McDonald in the SWAC championship game. So they played all three of them quarterbacks on the course of the season. And like you said, for their team, you don't need to have like a Quincy Richard, Bryant Lee, Austin Howard, or like a Devontae Kincaid, or Bruce Eugene, or Randy Hines, or Doug Williams. You just got to have a competent quarterback that's, like you said, going to be a game manager and not going to turn the ball over. If you competent and you just basic, don't lose the game. You don't need to win a game, but you just don't lose the game for us. Don't screw it up. You know what I'm saying? Keep it simple. And that's all you really need to do. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's all. That's it. That's all. And I appreciate you too, AFC Coach. Y'all brothers, you and Big Reg and J6, y'all live now, man. Still supporting y'all. Y'all doing y'all thing. Love y'all brothers, man. But yeah, man, I just can't wait, bro. I just
Yeah.
can't wait. Rivalries, 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 man. You got the uh the ego-driven Jackson State versus Southern rivalry. I can't wait for that game on the 27th of September. You gonna best believe my face, and I said this last show, and I'm gonna say it again, cause y'all been tearing up the SWAC streets with the smack talk, man, going back and forth. So it's gonna be interesting to hell who comes out the smoke.
Oh yeah, I'm not even gonna lie. Like, man, these social media streets. I mean, you could tell fans really starting to itch in terms of like even your episode HBCU Fanatics from a couple weeks ago, like it did 1,000 views,
Yeah,
major shout out to everybody that's been tuning in and has
appreciate
been
y'all,
rocking
man.
with us, and not only that, but that same week I had a show that had like 1,000 views, and then you got like She Loves D and HBCU Overdrive,
Yes,
Swag
sir.
Talk with C Wells, you got Rocket Miller, like you got PV versus everybody, like you got a lot of different content creators in the space, and especially that particular week, like everybody was doing big numbers. You know what I'm saying? So that goes to show you that everybody like itching for football. But not only that, but like the trash talk amongst the fan bases, especially like the real rivalry teams and the real rivalry games, like they've been talking crazy, like in these on these different social media platforms in these SWAC streets, especially these SWAC Facebook groups. You know what I'm saying? Like Roughing the SWAC with Avis Heat, and just these different HBCU, Facebook groups. You know what I'm saying? Like they've been talking reckless, they've been talking crazy. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see like what the season, how things play out. And the crazy thing about it is, as much trash as they talk on these different social media platforms, when you're in these different stadiums, it's all love. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's always all love. It's always gonna be smack talk, but it's always gonna be all love at the end of the day. Yes,
Yeah, big
sir.
facts. But I'm definitely looking forward to when JSU come to AW. Like that's gonna be an epic night. Of course, I'm definitely gonna be in a build down. You dig? You know what I'm saying? And we definitely gonna do a special episode of HBCU Fanatics for the family for that one. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm gonna have be a close. I'm gonna play close attention to the rivalry games. Even the MEAC, North Carolina A&T, and North Carolina Central, and Howard, and Virginia, Norfolk State. All those teams, man. Even the Turkey Bowl.
Yeah, yeah,
See,
yeah,
see if Alabama State is gonna continue to show themselves a superior HBCU team, or they got to beat Tuskegee off. This is the year they got to beat Tuskegee off with a stick.
yeah. And not only that, but like you said, you got your other games. You got the the game between what that game is that State Fair game in Texas over there. Sharks, y'all know what I'm talking about. I'm sure we got a lot of sweat.
Yeah, Grambling versus Prairie View A&M,
Prairie
the
yeah, because
Texas State Fair game. Yeah,
yeah, the Prairie View, they talking.
I went to.
Man,
That's the game I went to. It was in 2016.
Kincaid, yeah,
Yeah, I
Kincaid,
saw Devontae Kincaid
and Martez Carter,
and Martez Carter versus,
yeah,
and I remember it like it was yesterday. The first possession, Prairie View A&M scored with a very short running back. He was like 5'7", but it was a halfback draw through the middle, and he just raced it in for the beat the whole defense,
yeah.
whole Grambling defense.
Oh,
But they tightened up after that. But it was a good game. I
oh
enjoyed
yeah,
myself.
I'm not gonna lie. Hey, Panther Nation, them PV fans, man, they've been going crazy on social media. So yeah, they definitely have extremely high expectations for their team this season.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. And that's we don't expect anything less. All the HBCU fans, man, they gonna rock hard for their team, man. Ain't nothing wrong with that. Um, but we gonna go ahead and wrap it up, Coach, man. Uh, man, appreciate y'all, man. Like Coach said, man, last video, before the last one I made, went over 1,000 views, man. So y'all please continue to support my channel. I appreciate y'all, man, so much. Y'all have no idea. Anyone else you think that may like HBCU content, please share with them. Have them subscribe. I appreciate y'all. Also, my brother Coach 67 Sports TV. Make sure you continue to support his channel. He has 700 views. We're trying to get him up to 1,000. I'm still at what?
I think
250
250.
something, and rightfully so, because I've been grinding like you, Coach. Man, you've been grinding, working your ass off. I've been using an excuse as work, man, but I know I can grind a little bit harder. So, but nevertheless, man, continue to support us, man. But Coach, anything you got going on, or what you got to share for us?
Well, the next day or two, I'm not gonna do a live stream. I'm gonna do a video, and then of course I got an upcoming appearance on SWAC Talk with the brother C Wells.
Yes,
So y'all
sir.
definitely stay tuned for that.
I know I will.
I'm definitely gonna have I'm gonna have a live stream upcoming in terms of leading up to week 0 with North Carolina Central. I'm gonna do a live stream. I'm gonna do a video. I'm gonna make an appearance on SWAC Talk with C Wells. And basically, like you and I said, we as a tandem, we glowing and growing. And of course, once our brother Jay Good, once he, take care of everything behind the scenes in terms of, getting everything straight, hopefully we could get him on the channel full time, and we could be the trio that we are. And if whenever JB won't get on, he can hop on too. You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
just
sir.
the whole Southern Baller Show collective. But we glowing and growing, and we appreciate everybody that's been rocking with us. We appreciate everybody that came through on the live stream, and we appreciate everybody that's gonna catch it on playback. We appreciate y'all to the fullest. Y'all have a blessed, phenomenal weekend. And if we do Southern Baller Show on Sunday, please come back, come through.
We will, by the way. Yes, sir.
Yeah, so come through Sunday, 3:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, and catch the Southern Baller Show. You know what I'm saying? And more than likely, sooner, probably in next couple of weeks, once high school football get popping, we're gonna move HBCU Fanatics to like one of those weekday nights, like maybe. In fact, since we got the platform now, what you want? You want to set a night, or we just gonna wait to set a night, bro? How you want to do that?
Let's wait to Saturday night. We need to talk about it.
Yeah, so y'all just stay tuned. Once high school football get kicking back off, I'm gonna be working with the Louisiana All America Sports Network on their channel in terms of radio broadcasts, and we're gonna try to do some YouTube content for both channels. But like I said, appreciate everybody that's been rocking with us. The Fanatics was in the building.
Yes,
we're gonna
sir.
catch y'all on the rebound. Y'all have a blessed, phenomenal weekend. Come back on Sunday, 3:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. We're going to catch y'all then. Y'all have a blessed and phenomenal weekend. Peace and blessings. And salute to the awesome and amazing LDBC.
LDBC.
Yeah, dig.
Y'all be blessed.
Peace.